Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this video on Warframe Eidolon Guides 2021. Today we're going to be covering Vault Void Strike in a two-man squad. So we've done our DPS Vault in a two-man squad, and now we're going to be looking at the Void Strike side of things. So just as before, we're going to go through the build here, and then we're just going to pop in for one run, and yeah, that'll be it. So, just a bit of a disclaimer before we go into this. The run I'm going to show you is not perfect. There are a number of mistakes that I make in this run. It does clock in a 6-minute 58, I believe, for final Hydrodisc limb, so it's still quite fast. But if anything, that just goes to show that even with these mistakes, you know, you can still get these pretty insane times on a two-man squad. So do bear that in mind when you're watching the video. I will point them out and I will tell you why they are wrong and how you can correct them. But without further ado, what we'll do is we'll just run through the build here. And first of all, if we just look at Vault, I should point out that this is an exceedingly dangerous Vault build that I'm running here. You do not need to run this build. What I would recommend doing is sacrificing some... well, you could probably swap this out for Streamline, to be honest. But I'm just running this more for test purposes than anything else. So that's probably what I would do, and then obviously your efficiency goes down a bit, but to be honest, because we're running preparation, we should have plenty of energy anyway. But again, for test purposes, this is what I was doing. The reason that this is dangerous, and you'll see this in the video, is because the duration on the shields here is as close to not long enough as you can possibly get, really. So yeah, you'll see in the video we get some pretty close calls with the shields here, but again, I was just kind of testing this build out to see if it was viable. I'll probably end up going back to the Streamline build just because if something does go wrong on this build, it can cause you quite a lot of trouble. But yeah, this is basically what you want to be running. I'd recommend using Corrosive Projection on a two-man squad just because it does help out a bit with your DPS taking out the limbs, so do have that on. If you have Prime Sure-Footed, then you can obviously put that on here instead of Handspring, and everything else is kind of just our standard VS build. If you didn't see my my Vault VS build in for a full Eidolon squad, then do go and have a look at that. I go through the build there in a bit more detail. So, let's have a look at everything else. We're running our primary and our secondary here. The primary I'm running is going to be Rubico. This is just so that if our DPS is late anywhere, which usually they're not, but, you know, sometimes stuff happens and you've got to help your DPS out a bit. So if you do have to take out a limb, then obviously make sure you've got a primary weapon on just to help out with that. I'm running Ethodai as my secondary weapon here. Again, this is more for... you don't really need to use this. In fact, I hardly ever need to use this, but this is actually quite a nice way to... get rid of stacks. The secondary fire on the Ethodai will instantly remove all of your Void Strike stacks if you happen to need to reset at any point. Hopefully you shouldn't, but if you do, then that's there. I'm not running a melee just because we shouldn't need to. If you do feel like running Azor for Exodia Contagion to help out your DPS, again, you're more than welcome to, but if you're running with a competent squad, then you shouldn't need to. So I've just left that off just in case I happen to get rid of Void Strike stacks when I'm leaving Archwing. And then lastly, we're running Madurai here. Just for this Void Strike over here. Make sure that you have everything else unbound in this tree. It's very difficult to do this without having these unbounded, so or unbinded. So do make sure that you have those unlocked. Everything else, obviously, up to you. In terms of everything else running, I am running a Sentinel. You do not even need this, so again, you can take it off if you need to. And our Itzal build here is the same as normal. So if you look at any of my other guys, this is the Itzal build that I'll run. And then lastly, if we take a look at our operator, we're running a 177 amp, so that is Proper, Certus, and Replac. It is very important to run this amp. The Replac has by far the highest crit chance of any Prism and amp combo and damage output in the game, so do make sure that you're running this. It is going to allow us to far more consistently hit criticals than if we were just using a Proper or a Shraxon or something like that. So do make sure that you have this on. It is very important. Everything else is just standard here. I'm running Lockdown and Repair just to help out my DPS player. The Repair is going to be to heal the Warframes, and the Lockdown is to help stop Vonvalists shuffling about too much, so do have those on. I haven't maxed them out yet because I'm lazy, but I will get around to doing that at some point. And then Virtuous Shadow on our Arcane, which again is a necessity. Definitely have this on because we want to be guaranteeing critical hits on every single shot, so make sure that this is equipped. But other than that, guys, what we'll do, I think that's everything covered in terms of build. We'll quickly just hop into the planes now. We'll take you through one run, and then we'll call the video there. So let's get in there. Alright guys, so we're just entering the planes here, and the first thing we're going to do, as per any VS run, is we're going to dash straight out and spawn the Vonvalists in for our DPS, at which point we are then going to get into our Archwing and head over to the Terrorist. Now, the first mistake I make comes very early on, unfortunately, and it's with the first shield of Terry here. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up our shields for frame detonation, like so. We're going to proc Virtuous Shadow. And what you'll notice that I don't do here, or I forget to do, is leave Void mode here. So the first shot that I fire with my Proper is going to be very low damage, unfortunately. And also my shots go off very slowly due to how I've got my mouse configured at the moment. So the first shield was pretty slow. But we're just going to go backwards and forwards here, putting our shields up and dashing to get Virtuous Shadow. If you haven't seen the Operator in-depth video, you'll be able to see how I'm doing this a lot more clearly, so please go and have a look at that. But for each of these, we're going to fire a Proper, and we're going to fire a Replac to get enough damage down. Now, it's important to note as well, I'm going to make another mistake in a second, which is going to be on the last shield, where I failed to overstack. In this run, we are using a damage buff, which means that in order to one-shot the shield, we need far less Void Strike stacks than normal. I do have enough Void Strike stacks to one-shot the shield here, but unfortunately, muscle memory causes me to forget this, and I have to then reset in order to get enough. So right here, you'll see I come out of Void mode quickly, and that causes me not to have anywhere near the overstack that I would have had. So as you can see, we're on 1.17 there, unfortunately, and we could have been up at 3 times. So for those of you wondering, and many thanks to Silders who put this in the comment section in one of my last videos, if you're using Replac, you need the following amount of Void Strike stacks to one-shot the shield on Terrorist, Gantalist, and Hydralist. So for Terrorist, you need 5.73 Void Strike stacks to one-shot the Terrorist shield with a Replac. For Gantalist, you need 8.1, and for Hydralist, you need 10.44. So thank you very much, Silders, in the last few videos, or I can't remember which one it was exactly, but for commenting that. That is indeed correct. So do follow that if you are wondering. If you are not running a damage blessing, those are the figures that you need to one-shot the shields. What we're doing here now is we've just come over to set up our pre-shields. My close right, which you will find out in a second, my close right shields were set up slightly incorrectly there. I did not slope the shields down enough. So when you do that, make sure that when you set up that close right shield, it slopes downwards. And you'll see here when we go to close right, which is where the Gantalist is going to spawn, I do get knocked over, but fortunately I managed to get 2 shots off, which takes down the shield. Like so. It's important to note as well, guys, that you should only try and take down the shield with 2 shots. Don't fire all 3 off. Make sure you only fire 2. If it happens that you don't take down the shield in 2 shots, then make sure that you do fire that 3rd one off in good time. But do try and get it down with 2 shots if possible, and you'll see why in a second. We now have 1 extra Void Strike stack here, which we will be using. Because it is not 100% guaranteed that you're going to hit a crit with the Replac. It is nearly guaranteed, but obviously sometimes things do go wrong. And I think at one point here you will see, I think it might be this shield here in fact, that we do in fact not crit. And this is where my dangerous build starts to fall apart. As you'll see here how close this is, because we lose about half a second on this shield. That when we come over to this shield, it is a very close call between when this shield disappears and I shoot my Replac. So do bear that in mind, obviously, when you're thinking about what build you're going to use for your Vault. Make sure that you have enough duration. As you can see there, the shield's disappeared as we fired, so do bear that in mind. But as you can see on this one, we are going to get a really decent overstack here. So there we go. We got an overstack of 3.02 there. And you saw again that the shields disappeared very quickly on this build. So again, I will reiterate, you probably shouldn't use this build for just casual running. But what we're going to do now, guys, same as before when we were queuing up for the Gantalist, we're just going to charge our Void Strike up again. And then we're going to head over onto Hydralist. This time around, we did manage to get that overstack, so taking down first shield should be a bit easier. But as I'll just sort of give you a bit of a spoiler here, I do manage to somehow place close right shields incorrectly again. Not by much this time, but they were slightly off, which means that I knocked myself over again. But given that we have the high enough amount of stacks and that damage blessing in this one, it doesn't matter too much because it's either a 1 or a 2 shot either way. So yeah, we'll set up our pre-shields. Again, all of this is shown in my other guide videos for Vault and the operator in-depth guide, so do go and have a look at those if you haven't already. As you can see there, our stacks in the top right hand corner are much higher than before. You need around the 9 to 9.5 times mark to one-shot the first Hydra Steel shield with a crit. Unfortunately, I don't get that here, but I do manage to get 2 shots off. Like so. Interestingly, only the second shot knocked me over there, the first one didn't. And once again, we're just going to go backwards and forwards as we did on Gantalist. Getting the wisps, we're going to use our Replac here. And keep moving backwards and forwards. So that's basically the premise of it, guys. It's not really that difficult. The DPS player in a 2-man squad probably has the harder role, to be honest. At the end of the day, it does come down to RNG sometimes about how many crits you're hitting. Sometimes you will get runs which are pretty disastrous and you don't hit a lot of crits. What I would say about those is just to make sure that you are utilizing overstacking as much as possible. And that way you can get sort of at least 3 to 4 times charges, even if you have run out of your Void Strike stacks to begin with. So when you do get to that point, if you do have a run where you've managed to lose all of your stacks and you still have limbs to take out, just fire off 2 or 3 Proper shots with 4 times charge, along with a Replac shot, and you should be able to take down the shields with no problem. But yeah, we're just going to keep going backwards and forwards here. Sorry about that lag there, not sure what happened. But that's essentially it, guys. So if you do have any questions about it, then please do leave those down in the comments below. I'll be happy to have a look through those and answer any questions you guys may have. But now this is just going to be a case of our DPS player taking out the Hydras at the end and then gathering the loot up. So if you haven't, like I said, go and watch the previous guide videos. They go into a bit more detail on proccing Virtuous Shadow, setting up Vault Shields, things like that. So do go and have a look at those. They're all in the Eidolon 6x3 guide playlist. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.